Hello, and we are live. It's been a minute, but I am back, and I am back with your favorite warlock, Nathan here. And I figured we'd start off by talking about this thing that is going, everywhere over the past couple weeks, and it's men don't read fiction, or fiction they don't write fiction for men anymore. I did a before we jump into this, I did a very similar tag like a year and a half or 2 years ago. Let's see if I can pull up the thumbnail. Let's see. Do straight men read fiction? That's actually one of my most popular videos. It got like over 1,000 views. So this comes up every so often. This type of thing about men don't read fiction anymore, or they don't write fiction. And I just think, let's Nathan, I want to get your kind of opinion before, because I could just rant all about this, but because you're the one that actually sent me the big video that what is the lady's name? No nonsense free editor is, and I've seen other booktubers throwing this video around, but you sent it to me and I was like, all right, I gotta get to it. So what were your initial thoughts when you first saw the video?
All right. So initially, when I started up the video here, I thought it was going to go in an entirely different direction that it went. So there is definitely a downswing on escapist fiction written for men by men. Like a lot of times, we're seeing kind of the fairer sex kind of come in there and write the there was a term you used for it, romantasy.
Yeah.
So romantasy instead of pure escapist fantasy and whatnot there, and you're seeing that get picked up more and more. So as a straight white guy, can I read that stuff? Sure. Like my wife reads it all the time. Mel, she loves reading that stuff, but it's not my cup of tea. There's just too much romance in it. It's romance with some fantasy instead of fantasy with a little bit of romance. Give me a good Conan story where, there's a little bit of sexual tension with Conan and whatever, either damsel in distress, or he had a few contemporary equals that he ran into and whatnot there that he himself kind of fell in love with in some of his stories. Like, give me some of that where, it's the stakes are high. There's shit going down, the world, or at least, the world as they know it's kind of at stake. And, you're rapidly bonding with somebody over shared trauma. Whereas the romantasies, the romance is kind of in the forefront. And, I thought they were going to talk about that, where, most of the time that's what's being written nowadays. And that's what's being published. Where in the video and everything, and like I'm not trying to dogpile the lady and everything. She made an all right video and whatnot there. I just think she's off the mark. Like she started talking about a genre that isn't really a male genre, which is slice of life contemporary fantasy. You don't really see a lot of guys into that genre, which is why the genre doesn't really cater to them.
Well, yeah. When I got to that part, and it's weird because you'll see this in business. You see this in business a lot, and writing is becoming less of an art and more of a business itself. But you'll see this in business a lot. They'll be like, "Oh, there's a niche that there's no big product for," and they're like, "Okay, so let's make a product for that thing, right?" But it's just like a lot of businesses, people don't realize, well, you think somebody would have thought about it from now, right? The reason that there's not a big time author in that niche is because that niche is not for men. Like that would be like, what's not a big product for men? Tampons. Let's make tampons for men. And I'm like, we don't use those. You know, and that was the same way when she was talking about the kind of temporary contemporary stuff, and it's like she wasn't even talking about Hemingway. She talked about Hemingway, but she wasn't pushing the kind of stories that Hemingway wrote. I mean, if that's what you were going to come at me with, I might have agreed with you. If you were talking about, yeah, like they don't write books about men just going out into the wilderness anymore and being men and, you know, that type of stuff, I could have got on. I could have been like, okay, I see what you're saying. But she went the route of men's smutty romance and you know, slutty slice of life romance. And I'm like Ali Hazelwood, you know, she's known for that, the contemporary romances, the everyday romances. And I'm like, it's not because like there's not somebody writing that for men that it's not popular with men. It's because men don't give a crap about that type of story. I'm sorry, there may be 5 guys out there that would love.
I want to emphasize, you know, we're talking in generalities, of course.
You have to talk about in generalities because there's always exceptions, but there is a rule, you know. And I just don't know any guys out there that are just like, give me that contemporary romance.
Okay, so here's the thing. All right, so we're seeing a shitload of romances on the forefront right now because that's where money is. And like if there were money in the contemporary male romance genre like that, like we would see more of them just because it's where the money is.
Yeah, well, in this version, you know, I assume that I don't know if they mean in general women do more of the consuming, or if they're talking about in books. I mean,
well, I would say, you know, you could kind of put that in a general sense because a lot of times the person that is the vanguard of, you know, purchasing things in the home is the wife or the, you know, the mother, the woman.
Well, what is it? Women make 80% of purchases or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
But
I mean, and that would,
I don't think books matter when it comes to women
purchase.
Yeah, but like kind of like what she was talking about at the beginning. At the beginning of her video, she talked about nonfiction, and it's like, yeah, men dominate nonfiction. What? And that's what I don't. And this is the you'll like this because we get into these kind of weird talks often. Okay, so and this got brought up in that other video that I told you got like 1,000 views. Do straight men don't read fiction, and that's what they were saying. Straight men don't read fiction anymore. But here's the thing: I love fiction. You love fiction. Read it all the time.
It's my life, man.
Right? But what would it be wrong? Because men and women are not the same. We are not the same. What is wrong if men dominate nonfiction and women dominate fiction? I don't see there's anything wrong with that, if that is the case. Now, I'm not.
It all falls down to genres and everything. Like, you know, nonfiction. Okay, are we talking about biographies? We talking about historical recollections? We talking about memoirs? Like, there's a lot of different genres in both sides of that. Like contemporary fiction, you know, the smutty romance or whatever have you. That all fits under fiction and everything, and that is overwhelmingly dominated by women. It's not even worth bringing up the percentage of men that typically consume that kind of media. That's fiction. So since they are consuming that like rabid vultures on a carcass, like, yeah, they're like fiction's going to get dominated by that because that's, again, I keep saying, you got to follow the money. That's where the money is. Yeah, like people make crazy money on that stuff.
Well, and I've talked about this before, and me and you have talked about this before. In terms of like you said, money making, traditional publishers are companies, right? They're not charities, right? They want to make money. So
that's why the romances are a thing right now.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly where I was going. Romance has always been dominated by women. The most voracious, I mean, we have booktubers, male booktubers that read or at least start 200 plus books a year. But nobody on average is more voracious of readers than female romance readers. So, and they dominate Kindle Unlimited. I mean, it's it's crazy the amount of money. Even Jim Butcher said if he was
mean-
all about the money, he'd be a romance writer. That's what Jim Butcher himself has said. And this is one of the biggest fantasy writers on earth.
Yeah, Jim's a good example of like what the average man wants, though.
Exactly.
Like he's writing what's fun to him. And like I'm not saying every person that reads the Dresden Files is a guy. I mean, there's plenty of women that love that stuff.
Yes,
but there's also plenty of women that say shit like, "Well, the male gaze and the books are problematic," and like him thinking about all the different sexual aspects and attributes of these femme fatales around him. Well, that's a problem.
Well, and on in the video you sent me, the they don't write for fiction for men anymore. She touches on that slightly, where she talks about it's a great first person perspective. You get to hear the way he talks. Now, I am sure with the type of book that this was, that is way more raunchier than the Dresden Files. But that is a negative in the Dresden Files for some people. We did a live review and discussion for every Dresden book that's ever been made.
I don't like policing thoughts, and to me that's Harry's inner thoughts. He's not saying this shit to the people, to their faces or anything like that. Like we all have our mental world, our inner thoughts, and those are private to us and only us. Because as far as I know, there are no mutants out there with psychic abilities to telepathically read your mind.
Not that I know of yet.
Yeah, right. And because of that, well, people need to just let that go. Actions should have repercussions. If a person actively acts like a misogynistic prick or something along those lines, then we can have a discussion about those actions. But leave thoughts alone. If they're not hurting anybody, leave them alone.
And in our first discussion, this is what I tried to talk about. It's like Harry Dresden at the beginning of Dresden is about 25 years old. Oh,
yeah. Peak horniness. Peak horny level.
He's, I think he was single into the first book. So he's 25. He's single. And you were complaining about thoughts he's having in his own head. And there was no actions behind these things. I'm like, dude. And what did we say? What did we tell people? What Harry was thinking about is PG-13 compared to what 25-year-old single men actually think about.
Oh, yeah. And you know what? I'm happy that Jim had the grace to not give us raunchy ass baiting sessions or anything like that. I'm just happy he didn't do that. Because a lot of writers will put some twisted shit in their books. Stephen King, I'm looking in your direction, sir.
Well, and here's the thing. That's what I was about to say. She says they don't write like contemporary slice of life type stuff anymore. I'm like, I mean, lady, you're an editor, right? So you got to read books, right, to know how to edit stuff. Have you not read Stephen King? The king. He's like the king of slice of life fantasy, slice of life, just horror, I mean, yeah, you can call his stuff contemporary. A lot of his stuff takes place in today's world, and some of his stuff doesn't actually have supernatural stuff, i.e. Cujo. This
is a contemporary family living a normal everyday life, except Rabbit Dog.
Yeah.
Or let's again, this is the stuff that guys like. All right, again, I'm going to work on. I have to emphasize generalities here. I'm working on my own personal perspective, and every dude of like hundreds upon hundreds that I've met and talked about, fiction with, have all attest this. So I mean, like, it's not, again, it's anecdotal because it's coming from me, but this is a large group of people. It's not like 4 guys. Like a lot of us like normal everyday life, but something weird, something twist.
Well, yes,
give us a twist. We want the twist.
Yes, exactly. For men, I mean, and
that's what lets us escape.
Let's do generalities here, right? And she's talking about how women's contemporary romance is everywhere. Contemporary, so by her words and by money, that women like that, right? Mm-hmm. Men, like you said, we need something a little to make it pop a little bit, right? Like, and here's the thing: if you're gonna do romance, like we make fun of women for reading dark romance, but like that's the closest you're probably going to be able to get men into romance either. We got to have something crazy happening to make it really interesting. Like I don't know, I have it back here behind Stephen King is Haunting Adeline, and that book straight raunchy. It's very raunchy, very smutty, but yeah, that's just, yeah, my wife got me to read that book. But the thing about it is, in the book, between all the weird sex stuff that goes on, right? Because this lady is talking about all the weird sex stuff that, like, everyday sex stuff, like this. Haunting Adeline, actually, she's a very good writer. I want to try to get her on here, but her male character is like a super great with tech, badass fighter, killer of pedophiles. Okay, you got me. Let's go with this. Like that's the kind of weird romance that I can get into. Is if you got basically a Batman is in there killing bad guys.
Oh, dude.
Like,
all right. So probably the closest thing to like a core romance book that I read back in like high school many moons ago, because we're just aging, man. We're just getting old. But there was I cannot remember the name of the book any longer, but it involved kind of an orphan girl that lived with her uncle, and like she met some bad boy, fucking just asshole boyfriend type guy. He got super possessive of her, and like he wouldn't quit her. And so when she tried to break up with him, her uncle never wanted her around him and stuff. Like the dude kills the uncle. Spoiler alert, but we don't know the name of the book, so good luck. he kills the uncle with a goddamn scarf and everything, so it doesn't leave a mark. So it looked like the dude had a heart attack, and like this dude's trying to like possess the girl. So there's so much, like, it's not even romance at that point. It's suspense. It's I got to get the hell away from this crazy fuck. And like he killed her pet, he killed her uncle, he's killing everything, like all these things around her. I think he broke her hand, or something, because like I don't even know, man. Like it went all over the place. But like the point is, like that shit started kind of romancy and stuff when they first started talking to each other, but it quickly devolved into, we need to get away from this guy or kill him or something. And like, that's as close as I've ever gotten to really enjoying anything romancy, because that stuff is just so damn boring.
Well, and that's the thing too. It's like she, the nonsense free editor. I'm sorry, I didn't catch her name, but that's the thing I don't understand. Like she put up like clips of thumbnails of a few booktubers. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, if you watch BookTube, a lot of these BookTubers, especially the ones that are in my section, they just don't read fantasy. Period. Like I've brought it up to people, and I've even brought up a book called A Fate Inked in Blood, which is considered romantasy, but it's very like it's the best romantasy for hardcore fantasy readers. But like even that, people will just in my corner just dismiss it. They're like, nah, not even going to try romantasy. So if you can't get these fantasy readers to even read a romantasy book that other booktubers are saying is very light on the romantasy, they ain't going to read contemporary romance.
No.
Like, and here's the thing. Really, outside of nonfiction and epic fantasy, and epic fantasy and hardcore sci-fi, those are the three domains of men. That's where we like to go. So to get those people, or to just get people who don't read to read that, she thinks they're going to read that. And I know and here's the thing, I hope this R. Stone guy, I hope he does blow up. I hope he makes $1 million. I'm a self-pub author, so I hope he does.
Oh no, I mean, of course, I wish nothing no ill will
yeah.
towards like the original YouTuber or the author. Like if they find their demographic and everything, and they start making money hand over fist, good for them.
Yeah,
I just don't see that as a thing guys usually like.
Well, I hope he does. But again, I've looked at the numbers, and more than likely, I think her video's done over 115,000 views. She's probably helped sell more books than the guy had sold before her video ever came out 2 weeks ago. So it's not like this. Like she says at the end of the video, something like this is like, oh, this book is selling like gangbusters, and I'm just like, I don't know what we're calling gangbusters. Are we calling, but I hope it does. But yeah, it's just, that's not what we want superheroes or a guy defying the odds. We want
just weird. Like, dude, Portal fantasy, like, Stranger in a Strange Land. I just love being, taken from your safety net, your safety zone, and placed in an uncomfortable position. Like, give me weird stuff. Like, dude, and you know what? A lot of this probably stems from some of the books I read when I was much younger and everything. Like, because we were the Goosebumps generation, man.
Yeah.
And one that just painted my interests and everything was an old Goosebumps book called Beast from the East.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
dude, I love that book. And like, the whole concept is they're just the family and everything's walking in the woods and whatnot there, and as they're walking, they keep walking, and all of a sudden they notice everything's just weird. Like, all the plants are funny colors, and all kinds of weird shit is flying around, and like they're not in Kansas anymore. Like, and I love that. And I think it perfectly encapsulates what a lot of guys like. It's just something weird.
Well, and here's another thing. Like, she doesn't like, and this is something that I don't know. Again, you can't read every book, right? You can't be everywhere. But Stephen King's fairy tale, the first half of that book was 100% no fantasy, no sci-fi.
Yeah,
it was just coming of age, weird story. We knew something was weird. We knew the book was called fairy tale. You're gonna have something weird happen eventually. But it was kind of Portal fantasy too. But here's the thing, like, people's favorite part of that entire book was all the way up until you got to the fantasy section. Like, I thought the fantasy section was okay, not Stephen King's best, but I still think it was. The fantasy section I still gave a 3 out of 5, but the first section was probably a 4.5 out of 5. And that's how most people thought. We're like, you think men don't like slice of life and stuff? Like, men, we love coming of age. Like, that's one of our, like, Mike's book reviews, one of the biggest book reviewers that's his jam, is slice of life, or is coming of age rather. So yeah, if you want kind of normal stuff, that's the kind of stuff men like. We like, boys becoming men, friendships that stick together through weird things. Those are the kind of things, that men like. In the way she was talking in the video, she's like, oh, men would love this because it's just dudes talking about having sex with the same girl and what they did with them. I'm like,
that's not usually anything that happens.
I think she's watching too many like early 2000s high school football shows or something. Like, that's not how guys actually act, especially adult men. I don't know if the media wants to portray it like, oh, men are just out there talking about their exploits all the time. And it's like, that's not what we do. Like we're not, like, we don't enjoy like books about harems. I don't know why, but I feel like people after watching this would be like, oh yeah, men just want to talk about like just having sex with a bunch of women in modern day. That's probably pretty cool. I'm like, no, that's not what we would. You know what? We'd rather read a book that has no women, no sex, and all fantasy battles and dragons. Yeah, she kind of made fun of it at the beginning. She's like, well, if it doesn't have dragons, then you're probably out of luck. And I'm like, we'd rather read a book about dragons than sex. Dude,
a dragon is a fucking dinosaur that can fly and breathe fire. It's awesome.
And it's so weird. And I don't know if her thought process, or people who think about this in their thought process, is like, oh, like, the fantasy, that's for the nerd men. So we need something for the suave men. I'm like, no, men just like those kind of things, regardless of what type of guy they are, whether they're a Rico Suave guy, he still likes to read about dragons. Sorry, ladies. And no matter how cool you think he is and how charismatic he is, he loves dragons. I'm just telling you.
Let's segue from books for a second, because it still kind of fits in the whole what genre, like what do guys like, or at least our generation of guys. What do we like? What was the cultural capstone of our generation? And I would argue that was Halo.
Video games. Yeah.
It doesn't even mean just video games. I mean, like there were more people doing Halo than like any other piece of entertainment. Like at the time, it was like the highest selling piece of entertainment of our generation.
At Halo 3, yeah.
So the reason I bring that up here is, what does Halo have? Sci-fi fights, space battles, a super soldier saving the world. Well, shit, the galaxy at this point. You know, all of this stuff, and like Faravax. That's a solid.
He is hot. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, he likes cigarettes on fire without a flame. So
it's all about that Centurion get up and everything. But
she likes men with power.
Men with power. But the
men who can break reality.
The point I'm getting at here is, like, if you really want to try to shoehorn a love story in that, you had Master Chief and Cortana, but that didn't even really become a love story until Halo 4, when it went to the dark times and the awful times. But like Halo at its peak, it was just all of everything we've talked about, no sex. Like you got a little bit of sex appeal maybe with Cortana's figure, but like shit, that was pretty PG. Like if Halo didn't have blood and violence in it to the degree it did, like Cortana's figure wasn't giving that an M rating.
Well, here's the thing. Okay, and we could, and we could jump. We could go follow. We could follow our generation and be like, what did?
How much sex is in Star Wars?
Boys to young men to men. What were it? Was Dragon Ball Z? That was
how much sex is in Dragon Ball Z? There's a little bit of
wink and nod, wink and nod, wink and nod.
Well, I mean, Master Roshi, like he'll do some dirty shit, but like the guy's in what? If you want to be conservative about it, maybe 10% of the series of DBZ. So, like he's not in it a lot.
Yeah. So DBZ, you got wink and nods. Then you came to Halo, pretty much nothing except for Cortana. Cortana was ooh, look at her, and then you had Supernatural, right?
How much sex is in Supernatural?
And here's the thing about Supernatural. I think you might see a woman in her bra in 13 seasons, maybe 4 times. It's mostly wink and nod. Dean hooked up with this chick we saw off screen, and you're a womanizer, Dean. But that's about it. And that's, what? That's actually mostly fine with us. I mean, that's James Bond in a nutshell, right? People are like, James Bond's just a womanizer. You never see nudity once in any 007 movie, if I'm correct. You see a lot of bra and panties, but you never.
There's a lot of innuendo. I mean, oh man, what was it? Pussy galore. Like you'd have innuendo like that, but I mean, that's more highbrow humor, if anything.
Well,
making fun of his womanizing ways.
Most of it, by the time we got into the 90s, it became a funny trope, like, who's he hooking up with now? But you don't see anything because it's like, okay, it's cool. We get it. He got the hot girl. He got Halle Berry. Great job, 007. Go kill some more people for us, please.
Oh gosh, the Halle Berry movie.
Die Another Day.
Die Another Day. You see her breasts in that, so there is some nudity.
Oh, was it really?
Is
no, that's Swordfish.
Damn, you're right.
No, I was like, wait a second. No, I don't think there's ever been nudity.
Totally mixed up because they came out around the same time.
Yeah,
that was back when Halle Berry was a huge name in Hollywood.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, we're cool. Like, we want to. Do we know when the drop? off of
Hunger Games.
I mean, here's the thing. I don't think. I mean, if you want to say that like most readers were men back in the early 1900s, maybe, but once everybody got access to everything, right? We're just be politically correct here. Is women have always been the more readers. I just think I think women just read more in general, but I think epic fantasy that's still our domain. I would bet if you looked up what percentage of epic fantasy and grimdark fantasy, I guarantee
you got to be careful with that, though, man. Well, go ahead. Good. Finish.
I would almost guarantee you that it's a higher percentage of men in grimdark and epic. But like any like a slice of life fantasy, any magic mundane romantasy, those are probably more women readers. But like if we're gonna say has there been a dip off in the last 30 years of men reading fantasy? I don't know. I can't say. I mean, Jim Butcher came out 25 years ago and he's still rocking and rolling. Brandon Sanderson came out about that same time and he's still killing it. And a lot of people would say Brandon Sanderson books probably mainly are read by men too, even though his reading is pretty much neutral. And he's trying to even be even more neutral. That's why he's getting in trouble here recently.
You see, the problem is that, I stand by what I said. Hunger Games. I would argue the Hunger Games, which great series. I'm not going to knock the series. It's quite entertaining, but around that time, that was so successful that publishers started to look for copycats in that genre, and then they published what was it called? The Divergent series.
Divergent.
Maze Runner was kind of a male version of
Red Rising is the male version of the Hunger Games. It's because it's dark, because it's grimdark science fiction, basically.
So around that time, you saw a massive uptick. Basically, the point I'm getting at is you saw a massive uptick in female-centric fantasy series that started out probably more gender neutral in the audiences they were looking for, but then kept slowly slanting more and more towards the female demographic because they kept adding more and more romance into it.
Mm-hmm.
That at least that's my perspective. That's what I myself was noticing. And you got to ask yourself how many good writers, good storytellers got left in the dust because they weren't looking for that particular thing at the time, because this became the trend to chase. You got to ask yourself how many really good writers that wrote really good stories that were just something different, something odd and weird, that didn't follow that trend, that just got left in the dust.
Well, and here's an odd thing to think about. If you wanted to write fiction that men really enjoy, go and get video games and adapt them into books. Go get BioShock, adapt it into a book. Find great. BioShock's
not a good one to adapt, because what made BioShock special would not translate right into words, into a book.
I think the premise. I think people would love. I think men like steampunk more than women do. I think, and I don't even know if you want to characterize that. Really, I mean, it's a steampunkish, but it's past future. But what I was trying to get at is, I think that more men play video games than read books. Women are probably majority fiction reader books. Men are probably more the video game people. So you know who they're getting. They're getting great writers to write what men want in fantasy books normally. That we can do a whole nother video about how they're screwing that up. But get video game writers, good ones, to come over here because I mean, for a while at least they knew what we wanted.
Well, sadly, that genre has. Sorry, not genre. That medium has seen its own implosion of writers here recently.
Do you think that the industry has pushed writers into stories that appeal less to men and more?
Absolutely, 100%. Absolutely. Like again, like we keep seeing the pendulum swing here, and
yeah, I mean,
it's an assassin series.
I mean, thrillers are, and that's another thing I was going to say when she said that they don't write contemporary. And then she tried to, I think she knew what people might come back with. So she kind of strawmanned the argument by saying like, well, I guess if you want a thriller, well, yeah, men read all the thrillers. John Grisham, like that dude sold like 200 million books. Like that's what he does.
I mean, you got the Ripley series.
Was it Pat? What's the other guy? What's the other guy who writes all the military stuff? Tom Clancy.
Clancy, yeah.
And then there was another one.
Well, I'm pretty sure he's been dead for a long time. But yeah, they they take his name and they'll put him on other espionage, spy thrillers and such, and it'll just sell like fucking, like you said, gangbusters.
Yeah,
because, name recognition.
Yeah, so like I said, I don't want to like, I know we're about 40 minutes in, so I don't want to go too long with it. But yeah, I think my closing thoughts. Yeah, The Terminalist. There you go. That is a great freaking show on Prime too.
Whew. But there was a whole chunk of controversy over that because of it being painted as problematic and all this other bullshit, if I recall.
Mental illness in the thing. That was the big thing. And I think that's what made it great. But yeah,
I mean, anytime I hear someone say something's problematic, it makes me want to watch it.
Yeah. As soon as you say problematic or trigger warning, I'm like, oh, I gotta see it now.
It's tiring to me to hear that shit anymore. Like it's so overused, and they'll say it for the most. I hate to say it, but the most like pussy wimp whiny bullshit that you'll ever see. And so like it just has no meaning to me anymore.
Well,
stop whining about trigger warnings.
Yeah. In the end, to me, this whole conversation comes down to, she believes that men should be reading these type of books. I think that's what her whole thing about it was. She's like, men aren't.
I want you to want to read these.
Yeah, I want you. I think that's a lot of like. I'm not going to get political. We're going to be off here in like 2 minutes. But some people think men should want to do these type of things or read this type of material. And guess what? I don't think men ever will, because that's just not the type of stuff that men like. And guess what? That's okay. Because I don't expect women to be going head over heels about Expeditionary Force. That's more of a man's type of, Troy Rising. I don't see probably not a lot of women like that book. And guess what? That's okay. They cannot like that book. There are certain, that's just the way it's going to be. We're not the same, and it's okay. Supernatural. What would you think about supernatural mystery?
If that's all it is, to inject it in my veins.
It all depends on how you're writing it. And it's just how are we doing supernatural mystery with a bunch of boinking? Because if that's the case, then it's probably not. But if it's just your normal supernatural mystery thriller, cool. I think that's a neutral type of storytelling. Supernatural mystery. I mean, I know a lot of urban fantasy has turned into supernatural boinking.
So I want to throw something out here real quick. So the Dog Walker. Let's go back to that book real quick. I think that a lot of the humor and a lot of the stuff in that book from what I heard from her and what I've looked up on it and everything, I honestly think that could really could capture the male audience and everything, if it were a movie. Because
rom-com,
to me, that feels like the old American Pie series, or like movies down those avenues. And you see, here's the thing, real quick. Here's the thing: guys do not typically like to read about sexcapades and titties on glass tables and stuff. But I'll tell you what, it's fun as shit when you see that.
Well, yeah. I mean, if it's now, she was mad that that book was in satire, but the funny thing about it is guys would be more likely, like you said, to watch it if you're like, oh, it's a
comedy,
it's a romance, it's a rom-com satire. Men were like, okay, well, satire. I mean, you know, it's like
you can get guys to see rom-com.
Good luck, Chuck.
You can get guys to see rom-coms and whatnot there. Now, typically, you need it to be a really good one, like with a lot of rave reviews, or you need another a female to drag you along. But either way, guys can enjoy that and whatnot there. But we don't typically like to read that.
Yeah, the normal way that you get guys into that type of stuff, and the normal way those movies go, is kind of like Will Smith in Switch. It's like, oh, he teaches men how to get women, and then he finds his soulmate, and he can't keep it together, and he's all goofy around her.
That also had Will Smith, the Will Smith bump for that movie too.
Yeah, and it was a decent movie, but always in those movies. Yeah, it was, wasn't it? All those movies are always, okay, he's a womanizer guy that finds the right girl, and she turns him into a good guy.
Now, again, there are tropes in those types of movies that I think the average guy gets utterly disgusted with. Yeah. I can't fucking stand like the mid film or mid book or mid show misunderstanding that causes both of them to
that would never happen in real life.
Yeah, it's like, take your 5 minutes to explain the situation, and then everyone understands. Like I can't stand it, dude. It drives me up the wall.
Oh,
but I mean, God. Where are they going to go if they don't do that? That's the third act. So, like you have to expect that formulaic crap. But again, basically the point is, like, the Dog Walker could be a good movie for guys to watch. Like, that could be fun for, like the comedy in there, the back and forth with him and his friend.
A good hour and 20 short rom-com satire.
Yeah, but typically a guy's not going to want to read that.
Yeah, we're not going to sit down in 10 hours and read that type of stuff. But I appreciate all you guys who've been popping in and out of here. We're going to kind of wrap this one up, but we have a big live next week. Nathan over here, the Warlock, is going to be joining me, Alex from It's Already Over Book, Chris from Book Beast, JC Arm Byrne, as everybody knows who Mr. Byrne is around here. And we might get one more. I'm not going to put his name out there just in case he can't make it. But we probably are going to have a full house for Dungeon Crawler Carl Book 1.
About time.
And this guy over here has been killing me for probably the better part of 6 months to get my ass up and read this book. So Tuesday, I will start that. And next Sunday, the 9th at 5 Eastern time, we're going to discuss it. And if we all like it and you guys like it, this may be a new Dresden thing where we do one book a month. So hopefully, and you're going to be seeing more of me. I'm going to try to do one live and one video a week, get back into this, and keep checking in on my book battles and my character battles in my posts. I know some of you guys have been really liking that. But so how excited are you for me to jump into Dungeon Crawler Carl, Nathan?
Oh, dude. It's not on the same level as Dresden, because that was a multi-year affair where I was trying to get you to read that. But yeah, you said, like you said, 6 months, man. I have been telling you, this right here, this is gold. This is worth.
Oh, sorry.
That was the wife. She's calling me out, guys. So hey, Nathan's been killing me on this.
It's about time. Let's just say that.
Dungeon Crawler seems to be like the biggest underground book series because I don't see a lot of people review it, at least not in my corners. But online forums, it's everywhere. So I hope I love it, and we will see you all very soon.
Out.